Hey guys, welcome to Joe Knows. We're indoors today because I like being outside, but it's raining. It's been raining for a long time, so we're in here, and I've been reading through the Bible in a pretty quick manner. I decided to do 13 chapters a day, and I'm about a month and a half into it. So that'll get you through the entire Bible in 3 months. I've been doing that, and most recently I've been reading through the prophets. And prophets were men that spoke to the nation. In the Old Testament, they were speaking to the nation of Israel. And sometimes their messages were to other nations as well. But they spoke on behalf of God, and usually they gave warnings. And I wanted, as I'm reading through Jeremiah, and then you realize that God does care about the way we live, and particularly as nations. And God, through Jeremiah, was giving a warning to the nation of Israel. Now, they had been warned by many of their prophets, and mostly their hearts were hard. And they didn't listen to the things that they were told. But in Jeremiah specifically, a 52-chapter book, and when you have a background of the Old Testament, you're able to really understand who he's speaking to. And Jeremiah spoke over the life of many different kings. He prophesied for about 50 years. And constantly he was calling the kings to call the people to repent. And they really, by and large, ignored him. Jeremiah was pretty much ignored, and his message fell on I would say, deaf ears. And toward the end of the book, the things that Jeremiah prophesied, he talked about the nation of Babylon would come in and would take the children of Israel, mainly the southern tribe called Judah. They would be taken captive, and Jerusalem would be destroyed, and they would be taken out of the promised land that they were given and taken captive into Babylon for 70 years. And that's exactly what took place. And Jeremiah records that for us. And Jeremiah always had God's favor on him throughout the time that he prophesied to a nation that was just living in sin. Their sins were disobedience. They worshiped false gods. There was massive amounts of immorality. They were mistreating their children, offering them up to these false gods, these idols, and they were disobeying God, disobeying him. And he was patient, but consistently called them to repent, yet they refused. And toward the end of Jeremiah's life, they experienced the warning. What was warned became reality, and Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, he came in and he took many of them captive. If you know the Bible, you know Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. They were some of the ones that went back, and eventually almost all of the Israelites living in the southern kingdom of Judah were taken into Babylon, and Jerusalem was burned to the ground. The temple was destroyed. The walls of the city were taken down, and there were just a remnant of people left in Jerusalem just to keep the land and to prevent it from being completely overrun. And Jeremiah writes a short book at the end. It's called Lamentations. And lamenting is when you're sorrowful. And Jeremiah decided to stay in Jerusalem after the captivity, and he stayed there with this small group of people. And Lamentations is a book where he talks about the lamenting. He observes what's happening as the people are suffering for their sin. So why do I talk about that today? That's history. It happened a long time ago. I think that there are analogies. There is a cause and effect. God does care about how we live. He particularly cares about how nations live. And there are times that those that have been blessed greatly will be held to a higher standard. And in this particular instance, the nation of Israel, God's chosen people, called to follow him, their rejection of him resulted in amazing desolation. There is a cause and effect when it comes to God and his people and nations, and I think we need to realize that. Now, there were good people like Jeremiah that suffered because of the sins of the nation. He wasn't committing those sins, but he suffered on behalf. There were a lot of false prophets, by the way, telling everyone everything was great, things were good. Don't listen to Jeremiah. They tried to kill him on numerous occasions because they didn't like his message, but his message was true. It was from God. I wonder what, if Jeremiah lived today, what would Jeremiah say to America? What would he say to those of us that lead the church? What calling would he have? What would he warn us of? And what might God be wanting us to hear today? There are prophets that speak and talk about things that are happening around us. Now, we can't control our nation. We certainly can vote. We can't control what our neighbors are doing, but we certainly can live a righteous life. So I would say, in light of the fact that there is a cause and effect to the way that we live our lives, I would say that we need to think about that seriously, and we need to live our lives in such a way that we're waiting for Jesus, that we're recognizing that everything that we do, God sees, He watches, He observes. He rewards those who do right, and those who do wrong will answer. The Bible tells us that we reap what we sow. That goes for nations, but for us, maybe it goes for individuals. So let's make sure we reap the good harvest so we can sow a good harvest someday. God bless you. I hope this is helpful to you, a great reminder. See you next time.